Balatro. Everybody knows Balatro. Highly successful card game. The creator has posted the timeline of how he developed and worked on it. It goes from December 13th, 2021 up to the launch, or shortly after the launch, February 2024. So I have this huge timeline. I copy and pasted every paragraph here and I mapped it. So we have 2021 to 2024. I added some comments because I don't want to read everything. And there are many stuff that is super interesting. So let's get started, all right? What's the first event? The first event has been the creation of a folder for learning Lua. Okay, that's interesting. And basically he works an IT job and took 3 weeks vacation off in December for the reason that he explains here, because the company that he works for doesn't allow to pass unused vacation to the next year. So end of December, everybody takes vacation. At the beginning, he was working on a game called Auto Hike and he was not feeling like it, so he switched up. And then his initial idea was to create an online multiplayer version of Big Cheat, a game that he created that is a combination of Big 2 and Cheat. The whole week was basically upgrading the engine he built for Auto Hike to better fit a card game. So basically he started learning Lua, he worked on this game, and then he thought maybe I'll do a card game. Next week, so that's December 20th, we have generic folder name and the first time that he tries to create real serious pixel art, all right? And then end of December already. So he has a weird prototype, but it's kind of the base of his game Balatro. And there was already the mechanic inside, it is Chip X multiplier, that he says felt very natural for the scoring system. So that's interesting. It's like the core mechanics, or maybe one of the core mechanics was already very early on inside. And it was inspired by Luck Be Landlord from Northern Lyon. So this name, we will see it again later on. And then he made a decision to not play any roguelike games, to not be influenced by other roguelike games and fall in the trap of trying to copy what others are doing. That's really interesting take. Normally, the intuitive approach would be, let's play a lot of roguelike games to see what players are expecting, but he went the opposite way. Like, I will play no roguelikes at all, so he can come up with his own version of it. And that's something super important. It's kind of a beginner's mind. I think it also explains in all the books, Creative Act is a super awesome book. I'm still at the beginning, but I think I'm going to read it and listen to it a few times. The beginner's mind is like, when you enter a domain that you are not used to the custom or the habits of what is happening there, you will be highly likely to come up with a completely different solution to the problems. So I wanted to make mistakes. I wanted to reinvent the wheel. I didn't want to borrow tried and true designs from existing games. I think this is one of the core aspects of being an artist, being creative, and reaching the point where you create a game that is unique. If you just base yourself on what exists already, it's much more difficult to create something that is unique. And then he started sharing his progress with a few friends, but no build yet. And I think, last point, it was written somewhere, making game dev is a hobby for him. He mentions it's a hobby, and releasing them and making money from it is not. 2022, already January. My vacation is over, but I'm now fully immersed and obsessed. Okay, now the motivation is there. You know, we're in the beginning of the curve. We start a new project. We are super motivated. We see some fast progress. Motivation is high. And then it has a new title, Joker Poker. And basically it iterates through several gameplay mechanics and explores things that he could implement. February 2022, dev time took a pretty big hit. He was working remotely, Okay, so nothing special here. In March, so important event, I stopped working on the project entirely. And you might think, oh, what happens? Like, wouldn't you want to work as much as you can on your project? Well, remember, it is for him at this moment a hobby. And he explains it very well here. And it's a good mindset. I mean, it's a mindset that is reducing stress. And we're going to talk about stress later on. I've been making games for about 10 years now, and I've been doing visual arts projects for much longer. And a very important habit I have developed for creative hobby projects is to stop working on something when I no longer feel the drive. And this is for two main reasons. First, it allows me to move on to the next idea without totally burning out. Yes. Second, and more importantly in this case, it allows me to take time off, guilt-free, and possibly come back to the project later on without wrapping it in negative emotions. All right, this is super important. It's a hobby for him, right? So doing that allows to keep a healthy relationship with that hobby. Okay, 1 month after, we are so back, okay? So he's excited again. That's great. So he has a lot of ideas and so on. And at this point, he thinks of a possible Steam release. And the reason for that is that this was the first time in my then 8 years of game development that I had been 8 years. Wait. I've been making games for about 10 years. And here we are 8 years. That I had even considered publicly releasing a game that I have made. Main purpose of my games wasn't for them to be consumed, but rather for them to just be made. That's a good approach. I mean, that's an artist approach, which is a good approach. My partner was almost finished up with her PhD. And I thought, why not try to get a game developer job somewhere? I thought having a Steam game in my portfolio would be a big benefit. That's definitely a plus, if you want to get hired as a game developer. You need somehow to show that you have the skills. So how do you show that you have the skills? You show it through diplomas or certification. You show it through past jobs and experiences. You show it through personal projects that you have done. So publishing a game is definitely a big point that allows you to maybe secure that one job better. I really didn't have any commercial aspiration at this time. So I didn't even knew much about Steam and so on. My partner was learning to code in R at the time. Let me guess, that's for sure PhD in some hardcore mathematics. There are only mathematicians and crazy data scientists coding in R. Nothing against R. It has its purpose. How to name your variables? Blah, 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 blah. I like to call mine func. So his partner likes to call her variables func. So it's definitely a mathematician. I think the mathematicians I knew that code, they all name their variables in a funny way. I never saw mathematicians diligently naming variables. And in Lua, sometimes with a local keyword, blah, blah, blah. So his name local func was born. Okay, so his developer name was created. It's a cool story. And in June, probably the part where you build stuff that's borderline boilerplate, so he doesn't have much to say, just that they share a new version of the game. So I assume, at some point, the beginning of the development of a game is super exciting because things are starting to move, it becomes visual, it becomes exciting. But then there's this point of, you need to build some stuff that is boring, but you need to build it, menus, save system, and all kinds of, let's say, structure around it just to support the gameplay. I assume this falls into such periods. August 2022, he get one good feedback from a friend. So one good feedback, okay? Played the beta for dozens of hours, okay? So hardcore friend. I wanted to prove him, my other friends, my partner, my family, and myself that I could make something really fun and interesting. At this point, I started really increasing scope. Okay, so he gets, let's say, a good feedback and he thinks, okay, maybe I make it bigger. So the scope increases. More jokers, controller support, touch support, and so on and so on. So the scope increases. Now, so we are already 2022 done, right? And here it goes until August only. And here we directly are in 2023. So I guess from this period here to here, it's just, the scope increased, there's a lot to develop. He didn't detail the thing here. And January 23, it was a perfect opportunity to work as a game dev full-time even if for free. And so I didn't know if I ever could have the chance again. I had some money saved up, so starting this month, I really leaned into it. So he quit his job and took 3 to 6 months to work on the game. I took a brief vacation to surf with some friends. I showed them the new build I had been working on, and this version would end up on Steam within a few months. And this version had now vouchers. Now, March 2023, he contacted Luis Clement, I don't know, a freelancer that will do the amazing soundtrack for Joker Poker, so Balatro, not yet named like that. So it was the first time that he spent money on that game to get assets, and he was nervous about it. Okay. Then he got some feedback, and it added fire on the cards. Okay. Fire is always good. I love fire. I workshopped a list of 20 names for the game. I saw that the game Joker Poker was already an app for the App Store, on the App Store. Yeah, I mean, Joker Poker is so general, for sure it has been already taken, not just the App Store, like on many places for sure. This part is funny. I mean, funny, it's interesting. I sent this list of names to my friends and got all of their feedback. Balatro was among that list, but nobody picked it. Something about it really stuck with me, so I just went with it, okay? And the note that I put to myself is that when you create the game, you are the artist, you are the creator, you have the vision. Like he asked his friends, about all those names, what could be the best names? Everybody picked their choice. He didn't listen to them at the end, and he picked what he liked. This is how it should be. You can listen to feedback to people, but at the end, like artistic choices should stay with you. Like you should take the artistic choices. If you listen to everybody and try to put everybody's opinion into your game, it's going to be a huge mess because everybody has a different vision of what they imagine would be a perfect game for them. And if you mix visions, you're going to get at the end a mess because some visions conflict to each other. So trust in your vision and go with your gut. Honestly, that's my feedback to you if you want to, let's say, stay on the creative path. April 2023. So he goes to Steam. He pays a scary $100 fee. Scary. I mean, for Steam, it's one time per game. On the App Store is once per year. The official name is Balatro. I was pretty overwhelmed by Steam. Just starting to look into things like how to launch an indie game was really freaking me out. There are so many games released on Steam every day and so much noise and what you should and shouldn't do, what type of game you should make, what method you should use to market it. It was really a shock to me that even though I had this game that I poured so much time into it, it didn't really seem to matter. I didn't think this game would sell any copies before this, and my initial research into Steam reinforced that idea to me. I wrote again here for me, like, game dev is art. And so he checks all the, let's say, best practices of how you should deal with Steam and kind of felt like, yeah, his game is never going to be successful based on what everybody is talking about. This is why some games are highly successful and some, I believe, are not. Is that, you remember in the beginning, he decided to not play any roguelikes, to not get influenced, to just stay with himself and come up with things by himself. Here's the same. Like, I'm not sure how much he consumed of, let's say, the Steam market knowledge, but what is sure is that it contributed to the success of his game to not go with the flow of what people suggest. I think that's a good way to put it. May 2023, I downloaded Slay the Spy and played it for the first time. Holy shit, now that is a game. I did this because I was having some troubles in my control implementation and wanted to see how they handle the controller. Thank goodness I avoided playing it until now because I surely would have just copied their incredible design, intentionally or subconsciously. This again reinforces the part of the roguelike. So be careful. If you want to build an FPS game and you play all the FPS games, I know people expect certain aspects in an FPS games. Everybody knows that. But if you just take too much inspiration from what exists, then is what you are building truly unique? Not sure. I mean, it's something to reflect on. So he published his public beta. And what happened? Nothing. Nothing happened. As with 90% of Steam games, you push the button, go live, and nothing happens. But he had some beta players, and then the feedback started coming in, and this was a slow start. So he had 48 wish lists by the end of May. Pretty good. I mean, pretty encouraging. Pretty encouraging if you consider the fact that it ramped up based on a good feedback from one friend. Now he has kind of a little thumbs up from 48 people. Early June 2023. So now it becomes not a hobby anymore. I'm going to go faster here. I will zoom out to tell you why. Because we are just here and we need to travel all this and then we come to that part. But I marked the part that are interesting, so don't throw it. We are not going to miss anything. So in June, not a hobby anymore. He gets some initial YouTube coverage. And at this point, don't forget, we are 1.5 years into that project. Something he thought, oh, it's going to take 6 months. He's 1.5 years in, all right, for a card game that now when people see the success of this game, think, this game has been successful. I could build this in X months. But you see the creative work behind it takes time, and it's just how it is. You cannot take shortcuts. So he was thinking release and back to a normal job, maybe, because at this point was still his idea that it's a portfolio piece for taking a job. But he started getting DMs on Twitter or X from publishers. So I think the first DM he got was from PlayStack. And he, spoiler alert, it became his publisher. He really thought that maybe nothing will come out of this game. And by June 10, he had 183 wish lists. So very slow growth, but pretty good growth. I mean, there are games that don't have that. So mid-June, so more YouTube coverage, which is great. The game is just spreading by word of mouth. Now the game had inertia by itself. Without maybe doing it intentionally, he managed to create a marketable game that markets itself. And this is super powerful. If you manage that, you will see that the ball, once it rolls a bit, it just keeps rolling. He was also getting approached by different publishers. So I wrote incoming opportunistic publishers. Because don't forget, he's 1.5 years in development. I saw from other game developers or other YouTubers explaining that, when they reach out to developers, some of them just rejects them or tells them, work a little bit more. We are not sure, blah, blah, blah. Maybe come back in a few months. The part, come back in a few months, is like, go work for free. And once we are sure that your game will make money, then we can support you. We are not going to support you if you are not sure your game can make money, which makes sense. This is a world of publishers, all right? And the more it is clear that your game will be successful, the more of those publishers will come to you, okay? So the initial publisher that contacted him was probably the one that he trusted as well the most, because it might be the one that believed in that idea and wanted to support that from earlier on. He also got great family support, and then he decided to sign with PlayStack. So he lawyered up, made the contracts, created a business, and so on. He also checked the references of other game studios that worked with PlayStack. And that's an important point. So if you want to work with a company, try to find clients, just call them, send them an email, and try to reach out to someone that have worked with them and just see, what they have to say. Could they recommend it or not? Of course, the publisher will always recommend itself. So you should go, to the other person that worked with that publisher to just try to get a view of it. While this was very exciting to me, it was incredibly stressful. So this is a part where a hobby becomes a business, and it can become stressful, that's for sure, because you suddenly work with different people, and some people depend on you, and you start to have relationships, contractual relationships, and so on. So the stress increases. It can be good stress also. So he created a demo, blah, 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 and the demo was getting 100 to 20 concurrent players. At this point, he has 2,440 wishlists, all right. Then a big update. He signs a publisher deal shortly after. They outlined a very sensible release plan for the game. They really expanded the audience a ton with support for more languages and porting on day one for every major console. So what does the publisher do in this case? I would assume publisher pays him. They take care of language support, which is honestly a joke. Now with LLMs and all kinds of translations software, translating is super easy. So only thing that you need is someone in the native language that you're translating in to review the content. Because let's say you translate your game to an Asian language and you don't talk or you don't understand the symbols, it's better to find someone native that you pay to review your automatic translations. You don't need to pay them to translate all, you just need to pay them to review it. And that will be, in some cases, much cheaper. And porting on day one for every major console. So I'm not sure if by porting they mean they will contact the console manufacturers or whatever to make a deal, or if they, let's say, port the code itself. More streamer coverage by Nortulion, 1.2 million subscribers, so that's probably a big boost. And it took the demo down, okay? So big boost, because the initial version was just 50 rounds, so he wanted to take it down to make a different kind of limit. I think based on content, he wanted to make a limit based on content rather than rounds. And at this point, 28,000 wishlists. So we go from 2,400 to 28,000. That's the streamer coverage boost right there. Right there. At this point, it's set, he knows the game is successful. This is the point. It's a good sign, but it's not clear. Here is like this big number, Here you know that you are getting some money back. So new demo. Then he targets the next fest for the demo. And then he starts to have sleeping issues, heart issues, too much stress, and so on. So that's a negative point of all that. So you see, when you change from hobby to, commercial publishing of a game, it's different, right? Especially if you do that alone. So in this case, he has great support, I think, from his family and friends. It's still stressful. So we start exploring the feasibility of porting the game to different platforms. I don't talk much about this much more because of the agreements around those platforms, but suffices to say this ended up being a very large portion of my work time over the coming months. So the publisher says we are going to port the game on every platform. So we means you are going to port the game. We are just going to contact the platforms. That's how it is. 38,000 wishlists, so 10,000 more over 1 month. Then, of course, he needs to implement the localizations, so to support the different languages. My voice is gone. Oh no, come back. So a new demo is live, and at this point, 49,000 list wishes. 49,000 wish lists. October. So this next fest is just to have a demo in parallel of this event, but they didn't publish or they didn't participate to the next fest itself. And they kept that version of the demo live a bit longer as well. So they added the Ascension system from Slay the Spire inspired. They also had a meeting with PlayStag this month where I described to them the final content in the game with 120 jokers, and then miscommunication, it becomes 150 jokers. Okay, funny. Martin was absolutely instrumental in getting Balatro on every platform, and frankly, he's a Love2D wizard. Love2D. What is Love2D? Love2D is an awesome framework you can use to make 2D games in Lua. This is a game engine of Balatro, love.draw. This is a game engine they used to build Balatro. Documentation is right here. You can donate. What do you have? Timers. This is the documentation. Get FPS, mouse. This is a game engine. Just build something, all right? Doesn't matter which game engine you use. You just need to build something. Just need to build something. This was, I don't know what much more to say, it doesn't matter what tool you use. You should use whatever tool allows you to implement your artistic vision for that game. In this case, this worked just fine. More health issues, unfortunately. And at this point, he has 77,000 wishlists. I would also be stressful with so many wishlists, like jumping plus 30K in one month. And then now it's crunch time. Remember, we're at the end of the year and it should come live in February. It should launch right after. Yeah, just working on it. Okay, 87,000 wish lists. December, more of the same, crunch time. He took the demo down, I think, to just have breathing room, as I saw, before the real launch. And at this point, nearly 100,000 wish lists. So 23 was a big year. Then 24. I love working on the game, but working on it so publicly with such an intensity for so long is really catching up with me. So this gave more health issues to him. Anxiety attacks, intense stress for such a long time has done quite a bit of a damage. And then what is this? His doctor asked him if my work has been stressful lately. I don't even know how to explain. How do you explain your doctor that you are building an awesome card game and you have 100,000 wish lists? I don't think your doctor understands this. January 19th, there's the tournament stuff. Sit back and watch the fruit of my labor and not work on the game and just enjoy. I'm not sure this is not stressful. Like when I finish something, like a YouTube video, for example, I give it to someone to watch it before I publish, but I rarely, if not never, watch it like the finished product. I really don't watch it again. I edit it, of course. I check it like kind of quickly if all is good, and then and then I'm done. And I don't watch it ever again. Like I also don't watch people watching me to see how they react. So yeah, when I just finish the video, I give it to someone to watch. And if you're in the same room, I'm just going to the sofa and do something else. I don't want to watch it. It's stressful. Once I published the game on itch.io and a few streamers with like, maybe 200 or 300 subscribers, just picked up the game and played it and did a video about it. It was very fun to watch, but really stressful. Like watching someone play your game is super stressful. So I don't know how it's like sit back and watch the fruit of my labors. It's like at that moment I would also have an anxiety attack. And at this point, 114,000 wish lists. That's big. So super crunch mode, the last months of release. They go next fest, so they have a strong next fest. Balatro is one of the most played games of the festival. I start properly playing the game myself about a week before launch. You see, we create stuff and then we don't use what we create. And it's actually fun. I have pretty emotional moment where I feel like I did the thing I set out to do. Finally, I made a fun game I wanted to make. Absurd amount of momentum. Playstack did a truly exceptional job getting this game in the hands of traditional media to write their reviews. And then they get PC Gamer 91 scores. They are shocked. Everybody is shocked. Ratings doesn't make any sense. What he learned from Steam, marketers, gurus, told him the game would be not good, nothing makes sense, but the game is a huge success. I mean, shocked. 100,000 wish lists is a pretty good indication that the reviews are going to be good. And at this point, by launch day, he has 208,000 wish lists. So he had 100,000 wish lists just the last month. That's crazy. Starting with, where is the first wish list? So development. The first wish list is just here, the purple post-it. Okay, that's a timeline. So 200k wishlist. Very nervous, ready to patch like a madman. Not only one day, but all months. Everybody should be ready to patch. Anticipate the sky to fall and for me to be working 24/7 to fix the inevitable disaster. To my shock, nothing goes wrong. People love the game. They're having a great time. That's a good story, how it goes. The launch is 10 to 20 times larger than we were anticipating. So one publisher is super happy, I guess. And 50,000 copies. At the end of the day, 119,000, and you see 600,000 of revenue. As a number on Steam, more than he's made in his entire life. So it's a huge success. It's a great story. And it's awesome thank to Balatro guy to publish this timeline, because I think it's super interesting to reread kind of the story, how it happened, and be able to map it out, like the part where it was a hobby to the part where it became, serious crunch time, and the part where the momentum really built it up, and it was clear that, okay, this is going to be a huge financial success. I invite you to read the article yourself. There are things that he didn't much cover, but they're super interesting stuff, like how he interacted with the community. And here we go. Balatro timeline. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.